Welcome back. And now we're looking at restructuring the police.
It's not only the country that needs restructuring, eh?
And not just the minds as well. Restructuring the police, the Nigeria police force. Now, the police worldwide is increasingly faced with challenges to their growing complex environment. As the clamor for the restructuring of the country continues, some government authorities are also calling for repositioning, restructuring of the police by creating state police in order to keep the country more secure. Concerns have been raised over insufficient funding for the police operations, and the Inspector General of Police is equally asking for the support of both the Nigerian Governors Forum, I guess, and the National Assembly on legislation on the Police Trust Fund that is currently before the legislature. Introducing and maintaining a viable state police force will be a significant step in a restructured Nigeria. Is that possible? A state police force dominated by mainly indigenes of the state makes crime fighting and security challenges less cumbersome. Is that true? The geographical location becomes a familiar one. Is that true as well?
Yes.
Well, all these questions we're going to ask. We have joining us from our Abuja studio, retired Commissioner of Police. Let me start from the higher ranking officer, retired Deputy Inspector General of Police, Nigeria, Mabel Akwoibo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Also with him is a retired Commissioner of Police as well, Emmanuel Ojukwu. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
We're still expecting Tanwa Ashiru, a security consultant, to join us here in Lagos. Let's start with you, Mr. Akwoibo. Do you think that restructuring the police in such a way as to give room for state policing, would that make a difference? I mean, where you have the police force basically dominated by those from that state, or those that live within that state?
Well, this issue has been discussed severally, and we have always insisted that my own position that state police in itself alone cannot bring about a reduction in crime, and my position has not changed. And I must add that restructuring the police is in line with true federalism. To that extent, yes, it should be considered. But if you do not put measures in place, what you will have at the state police will not be different from what you have now presently. So just establishing state police without equipping those establishments, those institutions, you are back to square one. I want to recall here, a time was when people were clamoring for the proliferation of security agencies, you know, and we were like, look, it's not, you said the government doesn't have enough funds. And you were talking about establishing other institutions to carry out the same functions. But what we needed to do was to equip the existing institutions, train them, equip them, and we'll get results. But here we are, we're back to square one. We have succeeded in establishing various organs, various institutions to perform the same duty police is performing. And yet we're still talking about high increase in crime. So just creating state police in itself alone cannot be a panacea to the present quagmire we have in terms of increasing crime wave.
Mr. Ojukwu, would you say that there is no advantage in having policemen from a neighborhood who grew up in the neighborhood and know almost everybody in that neighborhood? Would you say that having a policeman of that nature in the community where he grew up, that there is no advantage to that? Where he knows practically everybody who is in that neighborhood?
Well, you cannot discuss such advantages. Yes, let me come in. You can't discuss such advantages without highlighting the profound disadvantages that are associated. Now, agreed, if the policemen are from that locality, they'll have better understanding of the terrain. Yes, but you can't rule out the possibility of them being ineffective because of their relationship with the environment. You can't rule that out. So we need to train our personnel, give them a new reorientation before you can embark on that kind of mission. Otherwise, you will discover a situation where policemen who are in the particular locality being selective in the enforcement of the law. You can't rule that out. I agree, yes, they will have a better understanding of the terrain, but you cannot rule out other disadvantages that are associated with it.
Okay, before we come back to Abuja, let's come back to Lagos. We've been joined by Tanwa Ashiru, security consultant. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we're talking about restructuring the Nigeria police force. Yes. Maybe weigh in on that particular question about having policemen from a particular locality dominating the police force within that area. Would there be advantages?
Absolutely. In fact, I feel like the conversation really shouldn't even be about should we have local police or restructure the police force to state policing. It's not a question of should we. It's a question of how can we make it work. Because the honest truth is that looking at the situation right now, having that centralized police, putting all the pressure and all of the challenges of this are very diverse, very different, very complex country, all concentrated in a center, it just does not make sense. And I'll give you an example. You know, laws vary from state to state. So you go and, for instance, the death penalty for kidnapping is instituted in some states and not in other states. Or the fact that some states practice Sharia law, other states don't. So you go and you take a policeman who is from a state that doesn't practice Sharia or from a state that enacts the death penalty for kidnapping, for him to go and enforce laws in another state where it's just completely different. I mean, it really doesn't help. Even when we look at things today, I know recently I was contacted, you know, kind of to talk about vigilantes in the Northeast, and I had to do a bit of digging as well. I had to ask a lot of questions to the military personnel out there and so on, to find out that is it true that the vigilantes are just going out there and they're the ones fighting Boko Haram? And the military personnel said, no, that's not true. But the truth is we do need them, just as in the creeks. We're not just going to go out. We're going to ask the boys who grew up there. They can tell you from the sound of an engine, they can tell you what kind of boat it is or in which direction. You know, they understand it. And so that's the same way even in the Northeast, the vigilantes help them. You know, they go out together with the military personnel, but it's very vital. So we need that local knowledge, and that's the best way to tackle security in the country.
Okay. Mr. Ojukwu, Emmanuel Ojukwu, you are a retired commissioner of police, but so let's look at it from this side. Let's put aside state policing and ask the question, how can we restructure the Nigeria police?
Well, you restructure a system or an institution when you realize you have information, you have facts, that the current system is not giving you effective service. You rebrand, you reposition, you bring changes to bear. So if somebody looking at the structure of the police, being hierarchical or being manned by one IG over 300,000 men, that one can be done. But we do know that right now we have DIGs occupying various positions in headquarters. We also have zonal commanders in 12 zones of this country. It's a way of decentralizing. In the commercial commission, I have area commanders. This police is very widely spread. But I think that the best restructuring you can do to the police is to understand why it is not giving you quality service.